Before we begin, I want to warn you that this story contains mature themes. It deals with the challenges of new motherhood, family relationships, and infidelity. If these topics make you uncomfortable, you might want to stop watching now. I'm Bray Shepherd. I'm 42 years old, and I guess you could say my life is unconventional. If you had told me 10 years ago that this is where I'd end up, I probably would have laughed in your face. But here I am, sitting in my kitchen, staring at a half-empty cup of coffee, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. It's been just me and my son, Maximus, for the last 8 years. Ever since the divorce, it's felt like the two of us against the world. He was only 12 when his dad walked out. He didn't cry. Not in front of me, at least. But I could see it in his eyes. And the way he would sit by the window and wait, as if maybe today his father would come back. Of course, he never did. I made a promise to myself back then. I swore I'd do whatever it took to make Maximus feel like he still had a family, even if it was just the two of us. And for a while, I think I managed to hold things together. He was such a sweet kid. Kind, quiet, always trying to help me around the house. But as he got older, things started to change. He started to change. And, if I'm being honest, so did I. Maximus turned 20 this year. He's not a kid anymore, but sometimes I think he's still trying to figure out what it means to be a man. He's always been a little reserved. He doesn't go out much. He doesn't really have close friends. I've tried talking to him about it, but he just shrugs it off and says he's fine. I know he's not fine. Although, a mother always knows. About a month ago, he came to me with something I never expected. Something I wasn't ready to hear. He told me he had been using my things, my underwear. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. And when I finally did, I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I wanted to yell, to scream, to demand what the hell he was thinking. But I didn't. He looked so ashamed, so embarrassed, sitting there with his head down, unable to meet my eyes. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about what he had done. This was about what he was feeling, about what he couldn't say. He wasn't some monster. He was my son. And he was struggling with feelings he didn't understand, with urges he couldn't control. And I couldn't bring myself to make him feel worse than he already did. So I made a choice. I made a deal with him. The next morning, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. I woke up earlier than usual, but I didn't move from the bed for a long time. My mind kept replaying everything that had happened, the argument, the look on Maximus's face, the words he threw at me that cut deeper than I wanted to admit. For the first time, I stopped defending myself in my own head. I stopped telling myself I was doing my best, because maybe doing my best wasn't enough. Maybe I had let things go too far. Maybe I had mistaken control for care. When I finally got up, I found the kitchen empty. No footsteps, no music from Maximus's room, no sound of the shower, just silence. The kind of silence that makes a house feel abandoned. I poured myself coffee instead into the cup, wondering how we had gotten here. How a promise to protect my son had somehow turned into something that was hurting him, hurting both of us. Hours passed before I finally gathered the courage to knock on his door. Maximus? No answer. I knocked again. This time the door opened slowly. He stood there looking exhausted, eyes tired, shoulders slumped. He looked older somehow, not just 20, older in the way pain makes people older. "I'm sorry," I said before he could speak. The words came out shaky. "I should have seen what this was doing to you." He didn't say anything, so I kept going. I thought I was helping. I thought I was keeping us together after everything that happened with your father, but I see now. I made things worse. He looked down. For a moment I thought he was going to shut the door. Instead, he stepped aside. That small gesture felt bigger than anything. I sat down carefully on the edge of his bed. For the first time in a long time, we talked honestly. No defensiveness, no pretending. He told me how trapped he had been feeling, how confused everything had made him, how lonely he had felt even while living in the same house as me. And as he spoke, every word hit me like a weight, because deep down I already knew. I had just been too afraid to face it. That was the day I decided we needed help, real help, not silence, not arrangements, not rules we made in panic, professional help. A few days later, we sat in the office of a family therapist. His name was Rafael Cabrera. The room was small and warm, soft chairs, neutral walls, a quiet kind of safety. At first, neither of us said much. I could feel Maximus tense beside me, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the floor. But Raphael had a way of speaking that didn't feel threatening. He didn't judge. He simply listened. Slowly the walls started coming down. Maximus opened up about the years after the divorce, about losing his father, about never really learning how to process what he felt, about how our relationship had slowly become something unhealthy. Then it was my turn. And that was harder. I had to admit things I didn't want to admit, that I had let loneliness guide too many of my decisions, that I had held on to Maximus too tightly, that somewhere along the way, I had forgotten where motherhood ended and emotional dependence began. Therapy became part of our routine, every week, sometimes twice. Some sessions left us feeling lighter. Others left us emotionally drained, but slowly things began to change. Raphael helped us rebuild boundaries, real boundaries, healthy ones. The arrangement ended completely. No exceptions, no blurred lines, no just this once. At first, it was difficult. There were setbacks, moments of tension, moments when old habits tried to creep back in. But this time we had tools. We had language. We had honesty. Maximus began focusing on himself. He joined a martial arts class, started journaling, spent more time outside the house. He even began making friends, real friendships. For the first time in years, I saw him laughing again. Not the forced kind, real laughter. The kind that reaches the eyes. And slowly, I started healing too. I had to face myself in ways I never had before. The guilt, the shame, the fear, the loneliness I had buried under years of survival. I realized I had spent so much time trying not to lose my son that I had nearly lost myself. Letting go was painful, but necessary. One evening, months later, we sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky burned orange and gold across the horizon. Maximus looked over at me. "Thanks, Mom." Just 2 words, but they meant everything. I reached over and squeezed his hand. A simple gesture, a healthy one. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were finally beginning again. Healing isn't perfect. It doesn't happen in a straight line. Some days are harder than others. Some memories still sting. But now there's progress. Now there's hope. The house feels different, lighter, like it can breathe again. Maximus is finding his own life, and I'm learning to rebuild mine. And if there's one thing this taught me, it's this. Love without boundaries can become something dangerous. Real love protects, it doesn't consume. It allows space for growth, for individuality, for healing. Mistakes don't have to define the rest of your life. What matters is what you do after. How you face them. How you learn from them. How you choose to move forward. And that's what we're doing now. Moving forward. Together.